Okay, final news topic of the week. Last night, as of this filming, Limited Run Games had their LRG3 event on, and yeah, basically, wow, 29 games announced. John, you've got a lot to talk about here, but you're not going to go through all 29 games, right?
No, 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 not at all. Just
Okay.
very brief, because I do like to get physical copies of games, of course, and I know Limited Run has had its ups and downs lately, but I'm still happy that a lot of this stuff is happening. So they kicked off with Star Wars Dark Forces, the Night Dive remaster, which I reviewed earlier this year. I'm a big fan of that. I would say it's cool to have a new physical copy of Dark Forces, I would say, to go along with my PC big box from back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
One that I was surprised to see is there's a collection featuring the two Fighting Force games, which are, I don't know if you guys remember, but the original Fighting Force, I think they were vying for it to be a Streets of Rage game at one
Right.
point, but it's a Western developed thing. They are pretty fun, actually. I believe Core Design made it, but Sega, probably for the better, didn't go with it for Streets of Rage. They were doing Spike Out in the arcade, though, which was basically Streets of Rage 4, if we're honest. So that's getting a release. There's some cool stuff like Rain World, which is a game that I like, and it's nice to get a disc version. One of the more interesting things that I was surprised to see was Wolfenstein 2 on Switch.
Where did that come from? That's out of
So
nowhere.
you remember, the thing about that, though, is like if you bought that originally on Switch, I guess Bethesda kind of cheaped out and they went with a small Switch cartridge, which meant you had to download most of the game
Right.
to your Switch in order to play it. So it was basically DLC in a box. It just happened to have an incomplete cart in there. And I respected them for putting out a quote unquote fixed version. So this is
Right.
the full game on the cartridge now. So they're using one of the more expensive cartridges. So it's cool to have that, I suppose. Let's see here. There was G.I. Joe and Toxic Crusaders are both pixel art style brawlers. I'm curious to how those will, because there's been a wave of those recently. Some have been amazing, but I think it's really tough to get that right. So I'm curious to see how those turn out. Gimmick 2 was announced, but they showed nothing from it, and the original creator was unaware of its existence
Okay.
until last night.
Well, there you go.
So I'm a little concerned about
It
that
happens.
because right, I love Gimmick is a game I love very much, and I've always wanted I think it's called Exact Mix, the arcade game that exists, where it was sort of re-released for the EXA or whatever it is, the EXA Arcadia system. There's actually like it looks like a 16-bit version of Gimmick. It's really, really cool. And I've always wanted to play it, and that's not coming home, but we are getting this sequel. So we'll see how that goes. Penny's Big Breakaway, one of my favorite games of this year, also finally getting a release, which I think that's great news, especially given what's happening with Private Division, their publisher, which basically imploded following the release of this game. So there was like the chance of this actually getting a physical release kind of became low when that happened, I would say. But thankfully it's happening. Also C Smash VRS, which now I believe has both, I think they added like a 2D, like a flat mode to it in addition to the PSVR 2 stuff. So you can kind of play it both ways. Because the original is an arcade game, also ported to Dreamcast, which obviously was not VR. So it makes sense to have that in here as well. Beyond Good and Evil got announced, getting a physical release from them. This is that one that Ubisoft mistakenly leaked themselves a while ago, and then they quickly recalled it. And thankfully the trailer makes it look a lot better than that.
Right.
So clearly that was just an in-development build. A lot of stuff was not implemented yet. So that's looking good. I think, Alex, you also noticed, and I think this is interesting, that like both Lollipop Chainsaw, which we knew was coming, but then Hitman Blood Money as well, like two sort of 360 era games, both getting sort of like new releases.
Really
And-
odd, especially the Hitman one.
Right. I mean, Hitman Blood Money is real good. So I'm kind of happy to see it return. Lollipop Chainsaw, though, looks like, I think you commented, it looked like it moved to Unreal Engine 4, which is also interesting.
Yeah, there was SSR in the trailer, which in that form of the way it looks wasn't anywhere near Unreal Engine 3. So it wouldn't be the first time we saw a game ported to UE4 from UE3, sometimes in really weird cases like the Batman stuff.
Right.
Where we're just like flabbergasted as to why they did it. But in this case, it'll probably help some of the more oddball aspects of UE3 go away, hopefully. Yeah.
That's right. And then there was a bunch of nice looking carbon stuff, which is the stuff that Audi works on, which is emulated classics. So there's the Gex trilogy. There's Ninja 5.0, which is an amazing GBA game. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but unfortunately it's one that's become prohibitively expensive and rare. Like I think a complete copy will set you back well over $1,000.
Ridiculous.
So it's nice that it's getting a re-release. There's Clock Tower Rewind Tomba Special Edition, which is really, really cool. And that even has things like proper downsampling support. So, which is one of my favorite features from DuckStation. And they seem to have implemented that here in this carbon version, which means, just better visuals for sure. That's where you render high res internally and then you scale it back down so it matches the pixel aspect ratio and the pixel grid of the sprites and the UI stuff. It looks awesome that way. They also announced that Tomba 2 is going to be made as well, available. And I'm curious if they'll be able to improve the performance, because on PlayStation it's a 30 FPS game, whereas Tomba 1 was 60. And then last and least, yeah, the Bubsy collection, which I know Audi, it even says his name right at the end, like produced by Audi Surly, the card. And I feel like it's the kind of thing that he had been working towards for like the last decade. And I'm very happy for him that this has come to fruition, because it's something. Obviously, we did the first appearance of Audi on this channel was with the Bubsy DF Retro I did.
Yeah, right.
Which was one of my favorite videos to work on, just in terms of sheer absurdity, but I loved it. And I actually think Bubsy 1 is a pretty good game. The rest are interesting games.
No, so they're all poor. The first one's poor. I was there.
The first one is not poor. It's fine.
So
it's just really hard.
It's just trying hard to be another mascot platform, and it's just not particularly good.
It absolutely is.
So, but the question is, like, if you port that platform, or like, which version do you go with? Aren't they like somewhat different between the versions?
No, in that case, they're actually really, really similar. And my preference would be Mega Drive.
All right.
Because that runs in a higher resolution.
Great.
I believe. Because, Super NES games are always limited to 256 by 224 for most games there, where Mega Drive usually was 320 by 224. So just having those extra pixels means you see more of the screen. There's more art visible on the screen, and you don't have to stretch out the sprites. I'm pretty sure it's not a 256 game on the Mega Drive, though. I'd have to double check, but if it is a 321, that's the one that they should use. Maybe they might actually and very possibly feature both versions. We'll see. I have no idea what's in this thing yet. The big question mark is the Jaguar game going to be in there? Even though it's horrible, it should be in there.
Okay. I mean, what next? Chester Cheetah, Cool Spot.
Cool Spot. Everyone wants Cool Spot. All of those
crap 90s icons.
Crap 90s icons, baby.
Quote unquote icons, should we say.
Well, Rich, I'm going to put you in a bind here. If you had to sit down for 24 hours and play Bubsy 1 or Afterburner for the Master System, what would you choose?
That's a tough one, because they're both really, really bad. You see, you're not putting me in a bind here because it's Bubsy, but I don't want to say it, because the concept that there's any scenario in which I'd like to play Bubsy the Bobcat is it's just untenable.
There we have it, folks.
But isn't it interesting, though, if you look at that, like that mascot platformer era, if you look at some of the new releases here, they're almost like straddling the line, like the Rugrats game. Like, do a lot of people have like a lot of nostalgia for Rugrats? I don't really know, but like
that one's confusing, right?
Yeah. But I at least appreciated with that one, they have like a mix of 8-bit art style mixed with super high res 2D graphics. Unfortunately, the trailer was 30 FPS, so it kind of looked a little awkward, but I respect the 8-bit art style at least.
Okay. Do we have anything more to say about this?
I mean, there was other stuff on there, of course, but that's kind of a rundown of it. I mean, it was a solid enough stuff. Not too many big surprises, but definitely stuff I'm interested in picking up. You know, and yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on that. And happy to see some of those announcements for sure.
Okay.
Maybe Beyond Good and Evil we'll take a look at soon, in digital form, I guess, because that comes out like next week, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, very close.
So yeah,